live. Late? I'm not late. Josh in here at 1:00:01 telling me I'm late. Welcome to the chat, Josh. You did beat me. I'll give you that. Let me just make sure my audio is good to go here, and then we'll jump right in. Oh, the Discord event might have gone off before I started. I think that's what he's going for. I can't hear anything here. Can you hear me, Josh? I can't hear anything from this. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm just dumb. All right, we're good. Can't hear the ads? What do you mean ads? I turned all the ads off. There should not be any ads on this stream. I removed all of the ad options that I could. If they're doing that, that's on Twitch, not me. Anyway, now that I've been rambling for a minute, hello everybody. Welcome back to another week of Future Group Friday. Pre-roll ad, that'll do it. Well, Future Group Friday, for those of you not aware, is a weekly series that I have started as a member of the Future Group and a member of the development team. So for those who don't know what that is, it's just a group of people who are tasked with designing, building, and then deploying updates to the game TagPro. If you don't know what TagPro is, it's a free-to-play browser game, 4v4, fast-paced, capture the flag, live right in your browser. Short games of about 6 minutes. You can find it at tagpro.gg. Today, we're going to sort of continue our plan from last week. We're going to start off with some development updates, things that we've been working on for the last week. I'll have a little update on Season 1 of Ranked, which I know is what most people want to hear about right now. After that, we'll switch over to the candy board, which you can see in front of me, talk through some requests from the community, and then we'll finish up with the roadmap that we started last week and kind of getting things into place for the future of the game instead of the present of the game. So, wow, sounds great, says Grant, as if he didn't know exactly what it was going to be. So I'm going to pull up our last week of changes. We'll go through that real quick. And obviously, if you have questions as I go through this, please just let me know. So a week from today puts us on December 5th. And December 5th was about the time that we were looking at the recent edition of Neutral Flag. We were trying to figure out how it was looking when we added it in, if it was balancing properly with Capture the Flag. And we had a couple changes that came in from that. The biggest one is something I mentioned on stream, I believe. It's that we want to make sure that Neutral Flag games and Capture the Flag games are picked equally when there's equal justification for both of them. So just, this doesn't really happen very often, but say you have 6 players queued for both, say you have 8 players queued for both Neutral Flag and Capture the Flag, it would randomly pick one of those two things instead of always picking Capture the Flag. Usually what that means is that there are like 9 players queued for Neutral Flag, 8 players queued for Capture the Flag. If the longest wait time is for the Neutral Flag game, it would go with that one. If the longest wait time is for Capture the Flag, it would go for that one. So we just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just always picking one queue or the other. It's allowing both games to happen when there are players queued for both games. So that went in directly. We didn't post anything about it. And I think it worked pretty well. In general, Neutral Flag seemed to be balanced with Capture the Flag better than expected, I'd say. I think one thing I'm a little bit hesitant about is how much of a recency bias that queue was getting. Were people queuing up for it because they knew that it was a new thing and they weren't sure how long it was going to be around? Or were they queuing up because they actually liked Neutral Flag and wanted to continue playing it? So based on the week trial, I think we're going to keep it in for Season 1. I don't see a reason to remove it because it was getting games pretty frequently and it seemed to be like wait times weren't ballooning or anything like that for Capture the Flag. So that's my initial inclination. If anyone saw anything differently, let me know. But for now, we're going to keep Neutral Flag in for Season 1, and I'll have some updates on that in a few minutes. Sorry, Grant, my filter keeps taking you out. After that, we had a 50%. Oh, yeah, we had a bug with uncertain players. We had a fix that went in last week. Not a fix, it was a feature, where instead of picking the closest to 50% game all the time, we pick any game within 40 to 60% win probability in ranked so that you don't always have the most even matchup, which is good from a matchmaking standpoint because it allows players who are misranked to sometimes get to their rank a little bit faster, and it just spins up the teams a little bit because we were having a problem where there were 8 players online in tier 1, and the most even game, even after playing the exact same game 3 times, was the exact same team. So there were like 6 games in a row with the exact same 4 players on each team, which, yes, it's the most even game each time, but that's kind of monotonous to be playing the exact same teams. Like that's competitive. If you want to have the same team for 7 games, go sign up for MLTP. But with the 40 to 60, it's going to mix those teams up a little bit. It's the same 8 players, but it might take one where one team's a little bit more likely to win, but at least you're getting a little bit more of a fresh game each time that you queue up. So that went in on Saturday last week. Then we had a fix in for very uneven matchups early in the season. And what that means, I just want to open this up real quick so I don't read the wrong thing here. Because we added a bunch of stuff in about uncertainty and making sure that players who were early on in the season were able to get to their correct spot a little bit faster than players who had been playing for a long time. And so I think this was just... Yeah, it was just ensuring that anybody who was uncertain was getting placed into games properly instead of like causing huge skews in win probability. It's more technical than that. I'm not going to bother getting into the details right now. Basically, we just want games to be as close to even as possible while also allowing players to move up and down when they're supposed to be. That's a good enough summary for now. We had a couple of hot fixes that went out that I'm not going to bother with because they're all back-end stuff. We've got... Oh, yeah, okay. Excuse me. So we have a pretty big refactor in progress right now behind the scenes. That's kind of what's slowing down season 1 starting. Sorry, I need to clear my throat. This is not good. Excuse me. We found that the way that we were storing database documents was functional, like it worked for season 0, but long term it was going to create some issues down the road with how many files we were trying to manage. It's annoying because this is something that takes a lot of our time that we really want to make sure that we get right, but it doesn't actually change anything on the site. So from a front-end perspective, if you're not watching these streams, it looks like nothing's happening because we're not changing anything to the site, but we've been spending a ton of time on this where we're taking different pieces of information, like how many tiers there are, what the cutoffs for those tiers are, and then things like the leaderboard, if you go to the rank tab, and making sure that the number of documents that we need to actually get that information and display it is as optimized as possible for long-term purposes. So right now, we're in season 0, off season. We're taking this time while there are no new documents being created to actually fix the format, get everything flipped over to the new format, and then we can use that new format indefinitely, and it shouldn't cause problems for at least 10 years, probably, before we run out of storage. So it's a lot better. It's going to be much easier for us on the back end to add stuff on top of this new setup, but it's taking a little bit of time to actually get it to a place where it's workable. So I can't really go into more detail than that because it's all just technical jargon, but that's been a big ongoing thing that I'm looking at in our workflow stream here. After that, we had some fixes with startup, making sure it starts up a little bit faster, getting the leaderboard to load up quickly and not trying to load it twice, which it was doing occasionally. Then we had a bug that came up from the other fix that I just mentioned about the uneven matches, where we were accidentally allowing matches outside of the 40 to 60 range. So there were a few ranked games that started and finished, and I think somebody posted this in the Bug Reports channel, where it was an 82% win rate for one team and an 18% for the other team, which not great because the 82% team just rolled over the 18% team. And then for winning that, they got like 0.2 on their skill score because they were expected to win it. So it didn't give them any sort of reward. So it was not satisfying for the losing team because they got rolled, not satisfying for the winning team because they got nothing for it. And everyone was like, why are we doing this? And that's why we have a 40 to 60 check. So we just fixed that so the check actually applies as expected going forward. Question from Josh: how complex is the decision tree for matchmaking now? I don't know how to concisely answer that question, I'll be honest. It's pretty complex. I don't know how much time I want to spend on this right now, but I'll try a quick summary. So the most complicated part of the matchmaking process is how the game decides whether or not to attempt to create a game. And that comes from the decision that we made very early on that we want to try to group together players of similar skill. So an easy example is if I am in tier 1 and I have been waiting for 3 minutes and there is an ongoing game with 6 tier 1 players and a couple tier 2 players. Even if there are a bunch of tier 2, 3, and 4 players also waiting with me, I should not go into a game with them because there are a bunch of tier 1 players in a game and I'll be able to go into a game with them when they get back. So instead of having one cycle with 6 tier 1 players and a couple tier 2 players going to a game, coming back, going back in, coming back, and then a separate cycle of you, the tier 1 player, with a mix of 2, 3, and 4 going in and coming back, you would never be in the joiner at the same time, assuming both of your games are lasting 8 minutes on average. That's not good because there's no cycling of players online. So the waiting check looks to see how many players are there in a game and how many players are there waiting, what queues or what tiers are all of those players in, and then decide should me as a tier 1 player go to a game now, or should I be waiting for the game that's active to end so then I can go into a game with players close to me. And that is a pretty complicated thing that we built. I'm very proud of how it turned out in truth. I think it works really well because it flows with the expected joiner cadence, if you will. It doesn't have a lot of waiting for things to happen if they're not going to happen. Like there's a reason that you're waiting if you're waiting, which is really good. We have to work on the display of that so players know why they're waiting, but the actual core of it is in a really good place right now. That's about as much into details I want to go for the moment, but if you want to talk about that on Discord, feel free to reach out. We can go into a little more on that. So after the 40 to 60% fix, we went back to the refactor stuff, and then we have a different thing with storage to make sure that we're not storing duplicate information in multiple documents, which is just like a long-term thing. After that, storage. A lot of conversation about that. A different refactor going on for post-game stat updating. Not going to talk about that right now. We have a feature on the way. This is going to be in the next release. This is not going to be live this weekend or anything like that. A fix to the replay URLs. Right now, if you go to a replay, doesn't matter what you do in that replay. If you switch your view to a different player, the URL stays the same. And if you shared that URL, it would just be whatever you had started that replay as. So if I click on my profile, watch a replay, I'll have a specific URL for my profile. But if I send that to somebody else, they get the replay from my perspective. But if I wanted to send somebody a replay of another player's perspective, I can't do that right now. So this feature that's on the way will say if you changed your view while watching it to be a different player and then shared the URL, that URL will be the perspective of the player that you were watching at the time. So a very little tweak, but a nicer way of sharing information with other people. Bunch of comments for that refactor I mentioned already. Duplicate cache stuff. Refactor. A fix for mod tools because players were still finding a way to bypass the duplicate account check that we have. That should be patched up soon. And then just a lot of stuff with ending the season. Yes, we scheduled the end of the season one night. We tried to run it. It didn't run the way we wanted it to, so we stopped. We tried again the next night, and it took us like 3 hours to actually get the thing to run properly. And then it ran properly and then did not award the Season 0 flare to a lot of players. So thank you to those of you who are in the Bug Reports channel. We found about 30 accounts that were supposed to have the ranked 0, Season 0 flare, the match flare, and they didn't get it. And we figured out exactly why it's happening. We built a script to fix it. That script is probably going to be run in the next couple of hours. So the timeline, which is I think why I have more viewers than usual right now, is because we are pausing Season 1 until we can get that fixed and working properly, because it would be bad to start the season and then try to go back and update stuff from a season that we've already ended and put on the shelf. So we want to make sure that we get the season ended properly, get everybody the flares they are supposed to have, and then we can start Season 1 as expected. So what we're looking at for a timeline is probably getting everyone's flares fixed today, and Season 1 is probably going to be starting on Monday, which is not what I think people want to hear, but we really just need a couple of days to make sure we get this in working order, get it correctly, get that refactor in and working, so that for the next indefinite number of years, we're not paying debt dues for this mistake that we made early on. So it's just going to be a couple extra days. I'm going to put a post up on the subreddit with a little bit more information, because we're also going to have some updates about activity requirements for ranked, when and how flares are awarded. So just to elaborate on that a little bit, we're looking at changing the 15 game per week requirement down to 10 games per week, because 15 games per week is reasonable if it's the only queue. We have added a second queue. We have neutral flag and capture the flag. If you're expecting 15 games per week to stay active on each of those leaderboards, 30 games per week is absolutely not a reasonable number of games to be expecting from people. So we're going to move it down to 10 and say, if you want to be active on both, play 20 games a week. If you only want to be active on one, that's okay. You only have to play 10 games a week in that specific queue. And I think that'll make it a little bit more attainable to stay on that leaderboard. 15 was just over the edge, I think. It was pushing it a little bit, and I think 10 will be very attainable for most players. But again, if you want to be on both, it's got to be 10 for both. Now I'm making play. I mean, we did have a conversation about 10 versus 12. I could hear the argument. I think 10 is just a cleaner number, personally. But you have more viewers because of the event. I got a Discord notification. Oh, I'll take that. That's good, too. Yeah, so again, Monday for season 1 is what we're looking at. Just want to make sure we get everything working, and I'll put a post up on the subreddit soon. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was the start of seasons and flares. At the start of a season, it always starts with 3 tiers. You have tier 1, which is your champion, your challenger, and your contender categories. Then you have diamond, and then platinum. Those are the only 3 tiers at the start of the season. What we found out from our test from neutral flag is that at the start of the season, everybody's in those tiers, so everybody's earning wins toward those flares. And what that results in is the first week resulting, you get a bunch of wins at a very high level, and then you might drop down because more players start to play, and you end up in, say, tier 3. But because you won a bunch of games in tier 1 at the start of the season, you get the tier 1 flare if you play enough games at the tier below it. So it's awarding flares that shouldn't have been awarded, basically. So we rolled that back, and we are implementing a 2-week minimum, where the first 2 weeks are kind of like that placement period where no flares are awarded for tiers during those 2 weeks. So you have to just figure out what your actual level is, and then after those 2 weeks, you can start to earn wins toward the level that you're actually at. So just a little tweak to make sure that flares are being awarded and kind of maintain the prestige they're supposed to have, because it's not great. It's not a great look to add this new flare, say, oh, this is a really good flare if you're a good player, and then we're giving it to players who can't get above tier 3. Like that kind of defeats the purpose of having that flare just because they played a bunch of games at the very start of the season. So that fix will be in soon. Why are you guys getting ads? I turned all the ads off. I promise. I didn't try to do that. I think Josh was saying it's a pre-roll thing. Yeah, I have no control over that. I'm sorry. There should not be any mid-season or midstream ads. AJ got AJ is a good example of that. He's a player who's currently in diamond for neutral flag, and he's like a diamond 2 player, which is fine. But he's walking around with a tier 2 flare or tier 1 flare that he can't get to now. Like he's not able to get into tier 1. So why does he have that flare? So just little things like that should be fixed in season 1. Bunch of stuff with the refactor. Season resets, getting the flare script up and running so that we can give people their matchstick. Ranked season. Yeah, sorry, this is all just the refactor stuff. So let's switch gears and talk about, you got a matchstick? Yes. On the off chance thousands of people want to start playing TagPro, can the server support that potential volume? Yes, we have a very easy ability to sorry. One of my developers was asking the question about when season 1's going live. What was I just talking about? Thousands of people. Yeah, we have the direct access to the servers, which means that we can increase the volume whenever we needed to. It would cost more money, obviously, but if suddenly, 1,000 people find TagPro at the same time, we could probably get 15 extra server slots up and running in like 10 minutes. Like it's very, very straightforward for us to add stuff in. It's a little bit annoying to get that back down to what it actually needs to be if it's just a random surge. But it's very straightforward to just add more server capacity if we have the funds for it, which we currently have enough in the back to support that if we needed to. So yeah, that's all good to go. So anyway, switching over to one more thing about development updates. We had two things that started development that are on the roadmap. So let me pull up the candy board real quick because this is related. We had one developer has assigned two different tickets now. One of them is start the game at any time on the clock. This was already planned. Now this is going to move to in progress. So we have a feature on the way. This is going to be in the next release where instead of having drop downs for every time-based setting, if you go to the groups real quick, oops. If you go to groups, play private games, anything that's time-based right now, we have what's a time-based thing? Potato timer. There you go. We have a number of seconds that you have to pick from. We're just going to allow this to be customizable for every single time-based setting that you could have. So this request was for the game clock is an obvious example. Instead of having all these increments, you can set the exact time that you want the game to be. So this is in progress. Has been assigned to a developer, included in an upcoming release. And then we had one other thing that started development as well, which I think people are excited for. This one is, about egg ball and about hockey. So we currently have egg ball, which is on a specific map. It's played with however many people you want, but it's kind of locked into that same football map. What we have on the way assigned to a developer now is the ability to create custom maps and to play egg ball and ice hockey on those custom maps, which I think is actually a really, really cool thing. I'm not really sure where people are going to go with it, but it's been requested for a long time. It's got some decent support, but that's a pretty big one that will be on the way. I'm not sure exactly when it'll be done because it's a larger undertaking, but it has been assigned to a developer. It is beginning active development soon. Last question for now. Can we get a spectate option that auto spectates without me having to keep clicking a game? Right now my workaround is to search Oceanic with spec on and I randomly get put into a game the other day. So yes. You mean you want to go to the spectate page and get random games from here? So I think that's the question, because I think you know this already. If you go to casual, you can click on the spectate option here, but you're saying you did that with just Oceania selected and kept getting put into Oceanic games. Yeah, I can look into that. That should be pretty straightforward for us to do. Instead of making you click each time, just pick a random one of these games. We would also probably like to do random only, ranked only random spectate, so you're only spectating the type of games that you want to be watching. That's a very, very doable thing for us. Good rest. If you want to put a request in for that, just go to the feedback tab for me and just type that up for 2 seconds, just so I can have it recorded for us, and then I can go through it while we're going through the rest of these here. So we're gonna switch gears now over to the candy board, start talking through some of the requests we've gotten in the last week, and then we'll move on to the roadmap for the rest of our stream. So, number one, some players don't have ranks on the spectator page. This is supposed to happen. Yeah, so this is supposed to happen like Bash said. This is players who have not been rated yet. So instead of showing nothing, we decided to just show their active flare because it's more nice to look at than just a blank area. We do need to fix the spacing of this because it's really bothering me where this is offset by a few pixels from the other level. This has been more of a confusing thing than expected. This here, Grant, or something else that I said? You mean like the missing tiers or just the whole premise of the cards? Where's my close? There it is. At missing tier. Yeah. I'm not too worried about it because it's the kind of thing that it's just for a couple of days and then occasionally one player in and out. Ticket has been submitted internally. Will be included when time allows. Okay, we've got ranked games with AFK players should be voided. Yeah, this is a thing that we've had a few conversations about. I'm kind of stuck on how to handle this one. I've mentioned it before. That's not a bad idea, actually. Have it say new. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Actually, let's see if I can find the ticket to edit that. I'll do that later. I know what I want to do with that. That's a good suggestion. I'm gonna take that one. Anyway, back to this though. The AFK players should be voided. It's kind of hard to figure out the best way to address this. So I'd like some feedback on it. Right now, if you have a game that starts and one of your players is AFK, in casual, nobody cares because they're gonna get replaced. It's fine. In ranked, that player is not playing the game while they are AFK. So the timing of it is that the game starts. 15 seconds later, that player is marked as AFK. 10 seconds after that, the team is asked if they want to void when that player gets kicked from the game. So you've got a full 30 seconds at the start of the game where one team is playing 4v3, and then in that 30 seconds, that player can sometimes come back into the game and the game will play without any opportunity for it to be voided. And that's not great because you have a team starting 4v3. Maybe they get capped on in that 4v3. There's no way for them to do anything about that except just play better and win the game at a deficit. So we've been getting a lot of complaints, and I think they're valid complaints where players are saying, we didn't have a chance because we were down 2-0 before the game even really started, and now this player is just back and playing. So it's resulting in two different things that I don't like. One is the team with 3 is harassing that 4th player to leave the game or to quit so that they get the void and the team doesn't get penalized, which is not great from a moderation standpoint, but I can fully understand why players feel justified in saying that. But it's still not a thing that we want to happen. And the other side of it is that players will just like soft into the entire game. Like they'll just stop trying to play because they think the game's already lost, which again, it's not good, but how can I really fault them for this? If they're starting down 2-0, why would they be as motivated to try the whole game? So I want to figure out a solution that allows the game to void a little bit sooner, or some sort of mechanic that lets the players in the game just play the game instead of complaining about this player to leave or not trying. So if you have thoughts on this, let me know. We had a conversation on the steering committee. I didn't have a great resolution at the time. So yeah, just do we offer some kind of save attempt opportunity? Do we do a vote to kick thing? Do we kick them sooner so that there's less time for the other team to cap in the 4v3? There are a few different directions. Let me pull up the conversation I had just to give you the other options. You can skip straight to a void instead of waiting for the extra 15 seconds asking players if they want to void if the player is AFK from the start of the game. You can block players who were kicked from the game for AFK from rejoining the game so that it forces the void so they don't have the opportunity to come back after the game kicked them for AFK. You could penalize the player who got kicked even more and just hope that discourages players enough to not do it anymore. You could treat the game as a save attempt for the teammates who didn't leave the game so that they get the win if they come back and win, but they don't get the loss if they lose after that deficit. You could block the team with 4 from capturing while the teams are uneven or while they have an AFK player. You could force a 3v3 in the game by implementing the rotating subs feature that we've talked about, where the team with 4 can only have 3 on the map at the same time. There are a lot of things we could do. It's just a matter of which one is actually viable for ranked TagPro. Got a couple thoughts in the chat here. If a player AFKs and the auto void thing starts but then comes back, rest of the team should be allowed to remake vote chance. Voting to continue exists, but not voting to remake. So is that like restart the game, or get the option to kick a team killer? Yeah, I don't know about kicking a team killer. I feel like that would be abused pretty quickly because why wouldn't they do that? They have something to gain from it. I'd rather we have a system that doesn't reward being a jerk, if you will, and just doesn't force them into that situation where they have to make a decision. Like, just how do we stop that player from creating that problem in the first place is kind of where I land on it. Now just voting to void anyway. Okay, I think I need to reread your comment because I'm not following. If a player AFKs and the auto void thing starts where it says, oh, so the player comes back after the auto void starts, the rest of the team should still be allowed to vote to void. Is that what it is? So it's 4v4. One player leaves for AFK. Team with 3 gets the thing, do you want to void the game? When they get that, player 4 comes back. The game is no longer voided. The request is, instead of the player coming back and they no longer get to void it, they still get to say, yes, void this game. And if they don't cancel it, then it voids anyway. I think that's reasonable. Let me write that down real quick. Allow team with AFK / quitter to still void the game if the player returns. That is a pretty reasonable suggestion. So thank you. What else do people say? Should give the option to void immediately after a player is kicked. Yeah, I don't think we need that 10-second delay either. So I think as soon as the player is kicked for AFK, boom, void message. And then, even though the player comes back, the void message is up there, the game will still be voided unless all 3 teammates vote to cancel because their 4th is back. But if the 4th comes back and they don't vote to cancel, it's voided. That's it. GG. Yeah, and we can also make the AFK timer a little bit shorter. So instead of like 15 or 20 seconds, it could be like 10. That seems reasonable to me. Yeah, write that down real quick. Shorter AFK timer and no delay from leaving to voting starting, to vote starting. Okay, thank you. That's a good starting point for us. In ranked, you should have plenty of warning for game start. Oh yeah, you have the whole minute in the launcher where you're voting on maps, and then you get, yeah, I'm with you on that. One thing I did want to talk about, this is sort of unrelated, but we have the voting page right now for ranked where you have 2 different maps and you have those little icons at the bottom of the map where you have the question block if they have not joined the launcher yet. You have the little blueprint if they're currently voting and the check mark if they have voted. If a player goes into a game without voting, do we make their AFK timer shorter because they're less likely to be there? Because you know players who voted, they checked in, they said, yes, I am here. But players who did not vote, there's a chance that they were just doing something else in the background. They got put into a game, they didn't realize it and didn't come back to their computer. They take the full 75 seconds for the game to launch. They still don't realize they're in a game and they haven't come back to their computer, and then they void the game. If we took those players who had not voted and we made their AFK timer even shorter, I think it's less likely to result in this situation. Is that too aggressive for those players to not have the time to come back to their game? I feel like it's probably okay, but that was another thought that I had as well. So I'm going to move on for now, but just other thoughts that we have. How much shorter? I don't know. Instead of 15, make it like 5 or 10. I don't know. It's the kind of thing we have to play around with a little bit and see how it actually works out in practice. But oh, I didn't respond to this. I'm going to put under review on this one. Ongoing discussion. Resolution should be on the way. Unban Excel, he's very reasonable and not at all churlish in his ban appeal. What? Oh, this is a mod thing. I haven't checked appeals in a bit. I can take a look at that later. Hydrate. Wow. I haven't had somebody use one of my stream things in a while. I forget what I even have on that. Thank you. Oh, you're memeing. Okay, well. I've heard the cheer in another tab. It takes 5 seconds to get back. Well, that's a good metric. So, anyway. Closed browser window previously, but now seeing ineligible for ranked games with the timer. I didn't leave an active game, so I'm wondering why I'm ineligible. I'm going to leave this to Bash, to bug report. This is probably because the player was matched for a game as they closed the tab and didn't realize that they got matched for a game because their tab was closed. It's just a timing thing. There's not a whole lot we can do about that. If you'd like to learn more about that, look up the 2 generals problem, and you can read all about it. Personal mutes do not apply in spectate. There's exactly 1 player I have muted in game. I don't want to see their macros even while spectating. Looks like we already have a ticket for that. Thank you, Pengu, for doing that for me. Macros getting removed every time you log out and log in. The chat macros are removed from the account. I don't think that's expected. Macros are stored in cookies, as far as I can remember, which means that if you log in on one computer and set up a bunch of macros, and then you switch to a different computer and log into the same account, your macros will not exist on that other computer because they only exist in the cookies on the computer that you made them on, which is okay. It's a better way of storing them than putting them in the database, but it does mean on a different computer. But this person is saying on the same computer, they logged out and logged back in. That should not be removing their cookies. This is not expected behavior. Macros will be different on a different computer stored in cookies, but should remain on the same computer if you did not clear your site cookies. Yeah, so please check your browser settings. Browser/security settings, and ensure you are not unintentionally, oh gosh, word spelling, these when you log out. And I'll see if I can reproduce that as well to see what's going on there. Changing AFK timeout for question mark seems unfair to players in a certain state. Certain state? Like Delaware? Moving the 10-second delay before vote. Yeah, yeah, that seems. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I'm gonna pause that because we're gonna have a conversation with the Steerco again. But I think that's in a good place now. I'm gonna leave Bash to respond to that. So I think that's all for canny stuff. Anti-Ray, did you put in a ticket for the other thing that we talked about here? Not seeing one. It's okay. We can get to it next week. If not, all good. So that's going to be it for candy board stuff. Let's shift gears now to the roadmap, which is what I want to spend more time on this week. It's going to get bright for a second. I only have a white background. I apologize. So we started this project last week. This is a little site that I found that just lets you drag and drop text, basically. And I'm using this as my makeshift roadmap. So last week we went through a pretty solid list of features that have already been submitted internally. So what I'm doing is I'm going through our long list of, we're now up to 215 features that are planned for the game and or bugs. And we are putting them into 3 different categories for now. Number 1 is release cornerstones. For those of you who are not with us last week, a release cornerstone is a large thing, like an important feature that would be added to the game that would be kind of the core feature or one of the core features of a release. So all those posts that we put up on the subreddit where we say this is a new thing that we've done, this would be like the headliner of that post. So it's a thing that takes usually a little bit more dev time to work on. Might be a couple of months of work sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And it's something that people are mostly excited for or that we expect to kind of move the game forward in a certain capacity. So those are like the big things. There aren't that many of them right now because this is about a year's worth of roadmap in front of us already. So it's not like we need a whole long list of these queued up right now. Next is QOL features, quality of life or quality of living, depending on who you ask. Basically things that are already on the site that are not quite working the way you might expect them to, or things that already are on the site working as they should, but could be working a little bit better or could be a little bit nicer, or just somehow or another could be a better presentation of whatever it's trying to be than it already is. So these are the things that they're not critical technically, but they're nice to have. They make the site experience a little bit better when you're using it. And this is a long one. We've got a lot of things because TagPro has a long history of just being a bunch of random developers working on things together. So a lot of things don't quite fit together the way that you might want them to. And we're all obviously volunteers. So everything we do is a little bit rough around the edges at times just because of the time that we're allowed to spend, are able to spend on the game. Third category is could do it, but why/when. These are things that would be fun to have. There's nothing wrong with them necessarily, but they might not be the highest priority addition to the game just because of where the roadmap is right now. Most of these are going to be like group settings, things that we could offer like as a customizable thing. But there's no real timeline on when we would need to have that thing or even why we would need to have that thing. Like honking, I think, is a fantastic example where we could absolutely do that. I think it'd be fun. It's not like it's a bad thing to have at all, but is that more important than the TagPro Friends feature? Probably not. Like so it's we could do it, but like why? When do we prioritize that? So that's the third category, mostly fun things that if a developer joins and they have some free time or they particularly are interested in this, these are the kinds of things that we would start off a new developer with to mess around with as they get up and running. Or if we just think it's cool and we want to do it. So we are going to go back to the rest of the list now. We're going to add these in, and then the process after we get all of these in, I'm not sure how much time we're going to have this week, but we're going to be reordering all of these lists to build an actual roadmap. And then once we get them in a priority order, we're going to start to put them into groups of features. So maybe you'll have a headliner, a cornerstone that is an important thing, like a friends feature. Then we'll say, okay, what QOL features would supplement that friends feature, make it better when we add it into the game, and try to sort of piece together the things that are related so that we can focus on a big group of things together for a release instead of just doing like a mishmash of different random stuff each time that we put a release out. So that's the long-term plan. For now, we're just going to start, like I said, with putting these into categories and then maybe do a little bit of ordering. We have a good 50 minutes, so we can probably get through a bunch of that today. So obviously, while we're doing all that, if you have any questions about anything, feel free to ask in the chat. I missed a couple of messages here, I think. Oh no, it's just Spheroid saying I can't detect sarcasm. It's okay. I forgive you. So group setting, TagPro pops both teams. Actually, Spheroid is the one who is the reason we have this request. So thank you, Spheroid. This is a request for private groups where it's saying when you have a TagPro, instead of that TagPro only popping the enemy, have it so it pops either team. This is mostly for minigame things, but it could definitely work as a experimental CTF thing as well. We could absolutely do this. The question is when/why. So we're going to put that down into the could do it when why category, and we'll move on. Group settings for anchored Mars balls. So this is another request for private groups where if you have a Mars ball placed in a certain location, don't allow it to roam freely. And I think this was a Homer J request maybe. Because he was trying to make a map where in the middle of the map was a bunch of Mars balls, but he wanted to have them like trapped in a certain area so they couldn't get out and be used to score on team tiles. So the request is, do we just have the Mars ball be a toggleable thing where you put it in somewhere and it's just never going to move? So it's kind of like the, what's that map that's in rotation right now? The one with the Mars ball in the wall, basically, where it's used as like a springboard kind of thing. I'm going to find this real quick. It's in rotation, it's neutral flag. Lockhart, that's the one. Open link. Why can't I? Okay, Lockhart. It's this one right here. I don't know if you can see that on hover. Ah! Where the Mars balls are locked up here. So this functionality, but without having to trap it inside of the wall, basically. So you could just have it be like there, and it's a bouncy thing in the middle of the map. So that's the request. It's a group only for now, but that's going to be on the when/why board. Disable Mars ball scoring. Kind of a similar request where instead of the Mars ball being anchored, it's allowed to move anywhere that it wants, but if it rolls over an end zone tile, it does not reset and does not result in a capture. That is also going to go down on the when/why board. Could do it, just not sure when. Mark a line between new and old chat when scrolling. Is the Mars ball inherently bouncy, or is it because of it being trapped bouncing around in the confined space? No, it's bouncy. So if you were around in the early days, Grant, you know about the actual Mars ball maps that were made for that, where you could push the ball to the flag tile and score 3 points. That you can see in that if you boost into it, you bounce off it pretty significantly. It's not going to be as bouncy when it's free roaming because it's going to take some of your momentum when it moves. So it's against a wall, it's going to hold that and it's going to give you back a lot more, but it's still going to be bouncy if you boost into it when it's not confined. If you recall the mini game, the what's it called? It's one of the mini games right now where you have all the boosts all around it and then two end zones on the opposite sides and just a Mars ball in the middle. Those are all super boosts. You go flying when you hit that thing. Yeah, when it's frozen in place, it's just going to be you bounce more than the one where it's moving around, similar to Lockhart, like that. So mark a line between new and old chat. Foosball? No, foosball is the one where players are on both sides of the map. They can't interact with each other. They have all the buttons. Or that's Mars board. Foosball was a different version of the exact same thing, but that was a horizontal one, whereas Mars board is vertical. Yeah, I'm thinking of the... maybe somebody's playing it right now. Someone bail me out, please. Nope. Fail. Anyway, moving on. Mark a line between new and old chat when scrolling. This is a group chat request. If you have a bunch of messages in your group chat right now, if you scroll up and players keep typing, you have a new message thing. But the request is that if I have a bunch of new messages down below me, I want to see a cutoff of when I have read and when I have not read. So how do you put a little line in here? So this is a QOL thing. It would make the site easier to navigate. It would make it nicer to use. Not sure priority-wise, but it's definitely a QOL feature. Similarly, a thicker line to scoreboard above DNF players. If you look at a scoreboard, there is it's a cutoff where you have players who have not finished the game at the bottom and players who did finish the game up top. The request is just to have a little bit of a thicker line above the players who DNF'd or did not finish their game, just so you know, okay, anything below this line, those players did not actually finish the game. So that's another one that it is a QOL feature. It would make the site easier to navigate. We'll get that there. Allow linking of Twitch and TagPro accounts. So this is very similar to linking Reddit and Discord accounts. We could probably just put them together because if we did one, we might as well do both at the same time. There's a lot of stuff we can do when we start linking accounts. The easiest one would be for something like what Anti-Re is doing right now. If he is streaming TagPro while playing, give somebody a flare while they are actively streaming the game. I think that's a pretty straightforward and pretty fun thing that would motivate people to stream a little bit more maybe, or at least spread the word that they are streaming. Yeah, so that would be up top there. Mark ranked ready players to their teammates. This is a request that's been coming in for a while, where if you are playing in a casual game and one of your teammates is going to be leaving that game because they're going to be sent to a ranked game, they want some way of knowing why that player is leaving and when it might be happening. So right now, the way people do that is they say ranked got to go, or they say ranked and they leave or whatever. But that's with no warning and it goes to both teams. This is saying for only the teammates of the player who is going to be leaving, put an indicator on their ball so that you know at some point in the near future they are going to be disconnecting. And that's relevant for a couple things. One, so they know they didn't just quit, but two, if they're sitting on a regrab, for example, maybe you hedge a little bit closer to regrab because you know they might be disconnecting at any time. And we can probably add some sort of visual indicator to this so it's not just guessing when it's going to be, but that would be in the QOL feature regardless. It'd be a nice thing to have, and it would be an easier site experience to understand why people are disconnecting from your games. Mark players recently reported on the scoreboard. This is an older request to do with reporting. If you click on the scoreboard, you click on somebody's, over here it says report/mute. Right now, if you click report/mute and then you report somebody for something, if you have already reported them, you will get a message in chat that says you have already attempted to report this player or something like that. Instead of forcing players to go through that process, click 3 times to get that report in, just show them ahead of time that they've already submitted a report on that player. And that allows 2 things. It allows them to not spend time duplicate reporting people, and it allows them to know, oh, this is the person I reported already, now I can handle that accordingly. So I don't know what they want to do with that information, but if you know, like, oh, this person was running into me in the previous game and I called mods, now I'm going to watch out for that because I know it's the same sumball that I reported or something like that. So this is a QOL thing. It would make the site experience a little bit better. And we have group setting for inverted rolling bomb. So this is a setting where instead of a rolling bomb exploding, the rolling bomb implodes and it pulls things in toward the player who activated it. Commonly referred to right now as a rolling hole, I believe is the active name people have been using for it. So the inverted rolling bomb is a could do it, but when, why kind of thing. I think it'd be a fun thing to test out. I'm not sure how practical it would be, but it's pretty straightforward on the development side to just have it go that way instead of that way. So we will maybe get to that eventually. Inverted gravity well. That one is already on the way. That one is awaiting for deployment right now. It's going to be in the next release. So that's good to go on our side. Add potato flag mechanic to buttons. This one I'm going to need a little bit of input on. So this is a request. I think Bald Eagle put this one in, where if a player is sitting on a button for an extended period of time, there's no set number on it right now, show the potato flag smoke and then pop that player for sitting for too long. So for those of you, to back up for a second, who don't know what a potato flag is, the potato flag is a flag that looks like a potato, but it handles the game a little bit differently, because if you are holding that flag after a certain number of seconds defined in the group settings, that flag will explode and it will pop the carrier. So if you have, say it's a flag and you grabbed it for 10 seconds and it has a 15-second timer, at 10 seconds, your ball will start to smoke and you'll see a little animation above your flag. And then at 15 seconds, you will pop. No matter what you are doing, where you are, if you are holding that flag for that number of seconds, you will pop. So the request is to put that same mechanic onto buttons. And this is relevant for public games because, say, a sumball doesn't know what they're doing and they go and they sit on a button and they sit there for 30 seconds and everyone starts getting mad at them, like, hey, get off the button, play the game, all this stuff. They don't have any sort of feedback from the game itself saying, like, don't just sit on this button, like participate in the game. So the request is to pop that player after the smoking warning to say, hey, you shouldn't just sit on this button for that long. This is a little bit controversial for private groups because I know the gravity community sometimes uses an AFK ball to hold a button to allow like a certain route to open up. So this is probably something we'd have to add as a toggleable setting. What I'm trying to decide is this a QOL thing, or is this a could do it but why/when thing? Because it's not really an expected behavior, which makes it kind of hard to sell as a QOL thing, but you could make the case that it's helping new players learn the game a little bit faster because they get dissuaded from certain actions that are negative. So I feel like I lean towards the when/why personally, but I can make the case for QOL if I needed to. So unless I see something in the chat, I should probably read the chat. Does inverted gravity well come alongside variable strength? Yes. Those are in the same branch right now. Is there a tip for this already or not? Feels like a good starting point there. I don't think there is. I think there definitely could be. But that is probably a better starting point than just straight up popping them in a way that's not intuitive. So you've sold me on putting it down here and just improving our tip messages, which I think we have a different branch in for. I think we worked on that on stream actually, just different things we can send to players at different times with a little bit more awareness of what they're doing in the game when we send that message, like, hey, don't pop your own flag carrier with in the end zone, kind of stuff like that. So yeah, that could be handled as a chat thing, and then if that doesn't fix the problem, then we can look into the button thing. So setting an audio cue when chat is sent in the launcher. So this is players are requesting if they are in a ranked launcher and they are looking at something else and somebody says something in chat, they want a little audio cue that says, oh, somebody talked, I want to look up and I want to see. Maybe just like a popping sound kind of thing. That would be a QOL setting. You could add it to the profile, and if players want that, they can opt into it. So that would make the site experience better. We'll put it over there. Group setting for team-specific buddy jumps. So buddy jumps was a recent feature added in the last release where if you are in gravity and you jump and your teammate is underneath you, if you land on them, your jumps reset. So say you have two jumps. Normally it's jump 1, jump 2, land. You need to land before you can jump again. If you have the setting on, you can jump twice, land on your teammate, and jump twice again. If you don't have the buddy jump setting enabled, landing on your teammate will not reset your jumps. So this request is for that to only be team specific when selected for. So if you jump on an enemy player, your jumps do not reset, but if you jump on a friendly player, they do. I don't really know the exact use case for that, but I know it's a thing that Gravity wants, so we can put that down in the could do it, but when, why, and we'll let them decide against their other things that they want, which one is more important. The developer, Dad, for those who know him, has been on top of a lot of the Gravity things recently. So, group setting to steal a power-up on tag. This is saying if I have a juke juice, and somebody else has a TagPro and they run into me, they steal my juke juice and they get to keep using it. I respawn with no power-up. There's an additional setting with this one where if you are in a game with a gate and you sit on the gate and they run into the gate and pop, that you get to steal that power up as well. So you could steal a TagPro if a TagPro runs into a gate. I don't really know what the other use cases for this are, but it is a request that we could do. So it's a ticket and it's over there. Add spectator chat to public games. This is a big one. This is probably going to be a release cornerstone. This is something people have been requesting for a while, and I know why they've been requesting it. The ticket that we have internally right now for spectator chat is spectator to spectator only. We do not want, I really don't want, frankly, spectators disrupting games by harassing people or chirping people mid-game. I'm kind of torn between including spectator chat and replays if players want to go back and see what people were saying. I just don't really know what there is to be gained from it. But spectator to spectator, absolutely reasonable to allow that. Maybe in post-game you could allow them to chat at the players in the game. I'm not super sold one way or another on that, but we can work out those details as we get closer to it. But this is definitely a cornerstone for me because I know so many people want it, and I feel like it's the kind of thing that you would expect to have, and it would be nice to have. With that, probably also showing how many other people are spectating a game, whether you are spectating or somebody else, or you're playing it. Probably on the leaderboard, you would just say up here, a little eyeball, and then 6 people watching or whatever it is. And if you're in the game, if you are spectating the game, then you can see the same thing. You see there are 5 other people here in the game with you. If you want to chat, just press enter, and that'll all work as expected. So that is going to be in eventually. And then we've got allow multiple players to edit group settings. We talked about this on stream for a while. I'm not going to go into it right now. Basically, just allowing for more than one player to be in charge of group settings. A couple other little things on top of that. But if you have questions about that, reach out to me. We can go into it. But that's a QOL thing. Just makes it a little easier to run your private groups. Remapping of all keys and options. This is another QOL thing, just making it easier for players to pick different keys for all their stuff. So right now we have a pretty limited selection of remapping options. You can change keyboard controls. You can click on a bunch of different stuff. I do use IJKL for those who are not aware. But there are some keys that you can't do. Like if I press M, oh, I can do M. Bad example. Shoot, what's my... I forget what they are. There are some keys that you can't use though, so feel free to go find those, and it would be expected that that is not the case. So that's the ticket that is there. Is it R? Might be R. No, R's working. G. Oh, maybe I have to save it first and then it tells me it doesn't work. No, it works. T. All right, well, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I know there are some buttons that you can't use. So take my word for it. We'll get that eventually. Group setting to customize pregame countdown length. This is probably a QOL thing. I think people would expect to be able to edit that. This is kind of between could do it, but when, why, and QOL. This is for if you have a private game and you launch and it says like 15 seconds until your game starts at the start of the game, you have that long countdown, just the ability to shorten that if you want it to be shorter. Def QOL, boom. Hey Broscope, hope you're well. Open external site links in a new tab instead of redirecting. This is a candy board request we got a couple weeks ago. Just all of these links down here should be opened in a different tab instead of redirecting you in the same tab. So instead of that, it should do that, where it opens up in a different tab. That's pretty easy to do. We just haven't gotten to it, so that's another QOL thing. Ensure refresh players weren't removed from ranked before applying spawn delay. That's QOL. This is for players who are playing casual and are queued for ranked. If they are redirected out of the casual game into the ranked game, the ranked game voids, so it doesn't actually happen. They go back into the joiner and get matched back into the same casual game. That casual game says, oh, this player refreshed, give them a 10-second respawn penalty. But they didn't really refresh. Like, they got taken out and then came back, so they shouldn't get any penalty when they come back, and so that is a QOL thing that you would expect to happen. Allow seeking after replay has ended. This is for the replay tab. If you watch any replay and you go to the end of the replay, this is Marsboard. You can see once the game ends, you can't seek back on it. You get that little red circle. This is not expected behavior. I mean, it's expected based on how we built this, but it's not what people expect when they come to the site. So this would be a QOL thing as well. Fix default zoom levels on mobile and new browsers. This is pretty important to me. If you try to send somebody a replay on Discord, for example, and they try to open it up on their phone, it's like the tiniest little dot in the middle of the map. It's just terrible. It works on some apps. Like if I open it on Slack, for some reason, Slack looks really good on mobile, but nothing else on my phone does. So that's going to be, at the top of QOL, just because I know I'm going to be putting it up there later. Display minigame maps and their settings in the Maps tab. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Just in addition to all this, have the minigames that are active so you can see what they are and what their settings are. That is also something you would expect to have. Is there a bug category? No, I didn't put too many of the bugs in this list just because we know what they are. They're already marked as bugs internally. This is mostly things that are front-facing that are working but aren't working great kind of thing. Group setting to respawn where popped. This is a request for racing, if I'm not mistaken, where if you are on a map somewhere and you pop for any reason, you get tagged by another player, you run into a spike, you run into a gate, it will backtrack where you are one frame at a time or one pixel at a time, whatever it is, until it finds a place where you can safely exist and not be popped, and then it will spawn you there after your respawn period. And this is mostly easy to visualize for racing because if you think about like a Rainbow Road or an SNES where it's like surrounded in spikes, if you go off course, you hit the spike, right now it takes you all the way back to the very, very start of the map, which is annoying because you might be 3/4 of the way through the map and then you just lose the entire lap, and that's not fun for anybody. You already are going to be losing some sort of time advantage for popping. So instead of starting you over from the very beginning, just bring them back to the same place that they popped after a few seconds delay, kind of like what Mario Kart does with that dude in the cloud who picks you up and puts you back down. Same idea. That would be a... probably it could do it, but one way I don't think this is expected behavior necessarily, but it's definitely a thing we could do. Is this Cheese's OnlyFans? God, I hope not. As long as it's a Mario Kart character who drags my ball back there. Grant, we're always on the same page. Thank you. It's where he says all the ideas are dumb. That's not nice. Pass void vote to second team if each loses a player. So if this is a 4v4 ranked game and one player leaves, the team with 3 gets the chance to vote to void. But if somebody on the team of 4 leaves and then somebody on the team of 3 comes back, this team of 3 does not get the opportunity to void the game right now. So you could technically force a team to finish 4v3 by voiding your game first, canceling the vote, coming back, and then they lose a player, and then they'd be stuck in 4v3 the whole game. That's sort of a bug, sort of a QOL thing. I'm going to put it in QOL for now. Remove tips for public games from private lobbies. That's pretty self-explanatory. You don't need to be told that the next game is starting soon in a private lobby because it's not how private games work. Offer additional playback speed options. This is on replays instead of the current options, just giving more control over how fast your replay is going. Right now we have options for 2.5, 0.5, 7.5, 1, 2, and 4. Just more options inside and around those for replay speed. Setting for audio cue from group chat. This is very similar to the audio cue from launcher chat. I think those would probably go together if they were built. Same idea though. If you're in a group and you want to know when somebody has sent a message, you would just opt in to getting that little pop sound or whatever we decide on. I think that spec also has an additional detail for group leader messages only. So if you want to know when the group leader says something but don't care about anybody else, then you could opt into that. I don't know how useful that is, but it's in the spec if we get to that. Notify group members when they are waiting for a server slot to open. This is a pretty big one, especially if the game gets larger right now. If you are trying to play a private game, and I'm just going to use New York for an easy example. If you have a private game and you launch your game to New York, but at the same time that you do that, there are already 3 active games, or is it 4? I forget how many server slots New York has. 4. So say there are 4 games going. You can see right now there are 3. So New York does fill up pretty frequently with public games. But if all 4 games are happening and you pick your private game to go to New York, the joiner will get to a point where it's ready to send you to a game, and then it will just pause. And what it's doing while it's paused is it's waiting for a slot to open up on New York, because it can't send you there if there are no server slots open. That would overload the server, cause a bunch of problems. So it just waits until that server slot opens, and then when it does, it will send you into the game. So the request here, notify group members, is just telling people when they are waiting so that they know, okay, in a couple of minutes when a game opens up, I will be able to go to New York, or I can just sit here, or I can go back to group and pick a new server if I don't want to wait to get onto New York. Thank you, Sam Water, for subscribing with Prime. I appreciate that. I have no idea what to do with that, but hopefully I can give you some emotes or something with that later. Anyway, display wins required for... Oh, great. Surprise, I've never run into that before, but I guess it's more of a private game deal. Yeah, it really only comes up with rare times during the day, and then one time it was happening... Oh, there you go. See, New York's full. So if you try to launch a game to New York right now, you can see this in action. But it happened a couple times with Chicago. Due to the server balancing issues, all of the Chicago games were on Chicago 4 for ranked, and then a competitive game was trying to launch to Chicago 4 because they were having better ping to it, and then their game just looked like it was stuck. And that's when we got this report. We realized it was happening a little bit more frequently than that, but usually it's okay because we have so many Chicago slots. But yeah, it is a thing that we will eventually get to. So display wins required for next ranked flare and leaderboard activity. We talked about this one on stream together. This is just saying on the leaders tab, make it a little bit more obvious how many wins you need. I can't show you because we're between seasons. Pretend that there's a drop down of flares here, of seasons here, of tiers here. Thank you. Just saying how many more wins you need. So right now it says, hover over tier 5, it says you need 20 wins or 50 wins, whatever the hell the number was, to get this flare. Make that person specific. So it says you have 10 wins. You need 40 more wins to get this flare. So it's specific to you, and then exactly how many games you need to be considered active on this little thing up here. So those are both in. I think that's QOL, just because people would expect it to be there. You'd expect to have that information in some capacity. So we will get that in when we can. Add skill score updates to the replay summary page. Where is this? This is on... I forget how to get to this. 682. I just want to be able to show you guys what this is talking about before I... There we go. So this page here is all of the replays for a specific player. I think this might be Bambi because he's the one who submitted the request. It's just saying that in this page where you have all the replay data, this is useful for things like scripts if they want to aggregate a bunch of data. Put the post-game updates for each player. So if they gained like 3 skill score points at the end of the game, put that in this field so that they know how much they got for that game. I think this is... I think you would expect that to be there just because there's so much other information there. So I'm going to put that in QOL. If someone wants to make a case for putting it down to could do it, I'll hear you out. But I think that's expected to have that information somewhere in the replays. Fix tier expansion text overlapping with active games drop down. I think that one's easiest to just show you guys the picture that they took. 683. So right now, if there is a ranked season with, say, 5 tiers, and we decide, we being the game in the background, decides it should be 6 tiers, it will schedule an expansion for 5 days from then, and it will say expansion scheduled. But as you can see here, that expansion schedule gets overlapped by the number of games that are active. So we should just adjust that so that it's below the number of games, or that this moves up. I don't know. Something to not have them be in the same place at the same time, basically. So that's QOL, that's expected. And then ranked tier names all becoming highlighted on the board. This is from the leaders tab. If I go here and then click this twice, it would highlight everybody yellow. Again, I can't show you because we don't have tiers right now, but that's another thing that is QOL. Fix alignment of unranked names in spectate cards. Oh, we just talked about this at the start of the stream. Is this something I need to merge then? Is that a candy thing? So that's kind of similar to this, where it's just saying, why are these off center? So I guess we do have a ticket for that already. That's QOL. Open profile page links in a new tab from launcher. If you're in a ranked game or in a ranked launcher, you're voting on maps. You can see 4 players in each team. If you click on their name, right now it just takes you to their profile. The request is to have that open in a new tab so that you don't leave the map voting page. And this is very similar to a different request. Where did that end up? Can I search this? I can. Open external site links. There it is. So open external site links in a new tab, open profile page links in a new tab. Those are very similar. You can keep them together. Only 4 more, and then we can work on actually ordering things. Enable notifications prompt for voids after AFK kicks if disabled. So if a player does not have site notifications, and if you don't know that there are site notifications, we have site notifications. If you go to your profile and you scroll down, you can select notify when game starts. What that means is that anytime you get into a TagPro game, if the TagPro website is not your primary tab or you do not have the browser open, you will get a notification that says your TagPro game is starting. Similarly, if you are in a ranked joiner and you get put into a ranked voting page, you will get a pop-up that says, hey, your ranked game will be starting soon, so you get that notification. If somebody does not have this enabled and they get kicked from a game for AFK or they void a ranked game, we should give them a pop-up that says, hey, did you know that you could notify yourself when you get into a game, which would hopefully allow them to opt in and reduce the number of voids and AFKs in the future. So that is a request that was in. I agree with that a lot. That is now on our QOL list. Allow group leader to start games from waiting. Pretty self-explanatory. Right now, if you are in a private group and you want to start a game, you can start the game from either team. You can start the game from spectate. If you start the game from waiting, it does not work because if you'll recall, there is a message that says group leader is not in the joiner. If the group leader is in waiting, they are not in the joiner. So if I click launch game right now and there are players here, it will send them to the joiner. But when they get there, it will look for me, not find me, and send them back to the group because I'm not there, which is not great if you are, for example, the gravity bot, which is running right now. If this bot is running and it tries to launch a game from waiting, it wouldn't allow the players to play. But this is a bot. It's not actually a player. It does not want to be in the game. So it's just a little QOL thing that they were hoping to have, and I think it's reasonable. Enforce personal mutes for spectators. We just saw that ticket today. That's an easy sell because you would expect it to be working like that. And then modify notification sound based on volume slider instead of set volume. So if you are in a ranked map voting page and you get that pop-up, it says your ranked game is starting soon. It has a little audio cue that comes with it, but that audio cue is the same for everybody. So the request is that allowing them to customize how loud it is because they don't want it to be so loud or they can't hear it because it's so quiet, and it's always the same volume for everybody. So adjusting that so that it follows the volume slider, which is, do we not have an out of game volume slider? Am I losing my mind? I'm losing my mind. I would have sworn that there was a slider. Okay, anyway, in games, you can see it, where if you look in the top corner, we're basically saying that we want the slider up here to customize how loud the notification is. And that's okay, because even if you have sounds off, you can still adjust the slider, so it's not like it really matters. That is probably a better place to put this, like, you know, the profile settings. I didn't realize it wasn't there, in truth, but allowing this to decide how loud it's going to be instead of just keeping the same volume for everybody. I know someone brought up they didn't want to have it exactly follow the volume slider. They wanted to alert, but they didn't want in-game sounds otherwise. Yeah, so yeah, like I was saying, you can have the sounds muted, but you can still adjust the slider. I don't think that's the perfect solution, but I think it's workable. It's at least something for now, and then we could, when we have a better sound mixing thing going on, then we can customize that a little bit more. So that concludes the listing out of all the things that we have to do. Now, after I take a sip of water, we are going to shift over to actually ordering these things by a couple of criteria. Let's talk about what those criteria are first. So first thing would be how important it is to the progress of the game. I do play with the game muted. I'm not an audio guy. Thank you, Samples Water. drink that water first. My throat's getting a little scratchy. So, number one thing we're looking for. How important is this feature to moving the game forward? Is this the kind of thing that will make TagPro easier to market? Will it make it more beginner friendly? Will it increase the number of players who want and will to play the game? That's my first criterion. After that, is this a thing that established players want, that established players would enjoy having, that might increase retention, that would keep people around? Stuff to that effect, where it's not necessarily moving the game, like it's not expanding what the game does, it's just making the game better as it is kind of the next thing. And the third category is more stuff that's like, this is fun, but it's not really going to change the trajectory of the game. It's not going to really make or break anything that we are doing. We're going to break it down into more specific categories as we go, but that's what I'm looking at right now, is more putting stuff towards the top if it is moving the game forward. Is kind of where I'm at right now. So let's get into that, starting with our release cornerstones. And I'm going to set this one off to the side. We're going to get a little messy here. We're not going to be doing just a vertical list. So this one's going to be off to the side because it's currently assigned to a developer. So it's not really on the roadmap. It's in progress, I guess. Let's talk about the rest of these real quick. So I'm going to put linking these on the same line because these are pretty much the same idea. And then we have to pick between a friends feature, time trials, calendar, new player indicator, and spectator chat. So, and linking accounts, obviously. I think just my initial inclination, moving the game forward kind of thing. This is somewhat in progress as well, so I'm going to put it over there. Of the remaining ones, time trials is probably the lowest priority of this group. And I say that not because I don't want it. I want all of these things. I just don't think that it's the kind of thing that is going to be a major pull for players who have not found the game yet. So right now, what we're really missing as a community, I think, is more on the communication side of things. I think that right now it's hard for players to let other people know what is happening in and around the community, especially with the shift from Reddit to Discord. It's a lot harder for us to kind of say what we're doing and for people to know certain things are happening. And so because of that, I personally am leaning towards the calendar right now. I feel like it's a little bit freeing in a way to not force players to come into a Discord to verify an account, to chat and ask questions if they want to know something, if things aren't being posted to Reddit like they used to be. And even if they are being posted to Reddit in general, it just doesn't really, it's not what it used to be kind of thing. Like, people aren't flocking to it for information. It's, I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts about Reddit that aren't really related to this conversation, but I feel like the ability for us to control how much information people are getting about what is going on is better from a community standpoint, because if you're, let's run through a couple hypotheticals. You're a new player who's never played the game before. You come to the homepage, you see a play now button and nothing else. Maybe you see a couple players online, maybe you don't. You don't really have any indication of how active or lively a community you are taking a peek at. If you join the subreddit or you join the Discord, sure, you could see all the activity going on in those places. Not that much on Reddit. But there's no real indication like, oh, this is a place where things are actually happening. This is an active place to be. If you have a calendar, you can say, okay, at least they know that there is a competitive league starting in a week. At least they know that there is an event starting in a month. Like, there's all the little things that kind of give you hints at what kind of community we are in the things that we do. And so I think that the ability for players to see that would be helpful as a foot in the door kind of thing, getting players to be interested in the game. For players who are already invested in the game, I think this is huge for them too, because I want, to some degree, TagPro to be more of a place that you go for information. Right now, if you have a question about anything TagPro related, you're not going to TagPro to get that information. You don't think, oh, I should check the TagPro site to learn about things that are happening in TagPro. And I feel like that the fact that that's the case is kind of weird, right? Wouldn't you want players to come to the site to learn things about the site? And right now, all the things to learn about the site are not on the site. So that would be better from a community standpoint, because it kind of makes the game feel a little more real, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Having a visible community is important, and having another barrier like Discord makes it a lot more. Yeah, I'm with you. So that's kind of where I'm leaning for number one priority. This is the one that I'm the least sold on how we implement it, unfortunately. So it's going to be a little more of a discussion, but I feel like that is where I'd want my focus to be shifting soon. Discord is overwhelming for new players. Info sprawl is real. Yeah, and you have like buried conversations and all that. I should clarify before we get too much farther into this that the short-term roadmap has not changed. We're still focusing on the in-game shop and the Steam release. Those are the next two big things that are release cornerstones, essentially. This would all be stuff that happens after or at the same time as those two features, not before those two features. I think with Steam, that's also a big thing. If we're trying to say, hey, this is a community that's been existing for a long time, and players can't really understand what we do, that is a little bit dangerous for our prospects in terms of growth. So that's where I'm leaning for number one right now. If you want to fight me on it, feel free. And what's next? So spectator chat, friends feature, time trials, linking accounts. This is potentially gonna... It's hard because you want all of these things. It's just a matter of what do you do with them? Like, linking Reddit and Discord is good. That gives us freedom to do a lot more stuff on Discord. It gives us more freedom to do stuff with Twitch. But does that really move the needle in terms of community growth? I think linking Twitch accounts maybe, but that's marketing TagPro to people already playing TagPro. But if you have more streamers, this is more of a question actually. If you have more streamers, but not a lot of viewers for each of those streamers, does that really do much for outreach? Does that get players to see the game who wouldn't be seeing the game otherwise? Does that increase like the site traffic to be streaming the game more, even if it's very small streamers? Because if the answer to that is yes, I think this is actually a little bit of a higher priority, getting people motivated to stream games. If the answer is no, I'm not sure how much of a sell it is. Let's talk about the friends feature for a minute. What does that do for new player retention and for outreach? Does that motivate people to come to the site and play? I think that some of the things that we can do with the friends feature help with that. Like, for example, making it easier to send somebody a group link on the site. Like, you can just go to your friend, invite to group. Like, there are little QOL things that could stem from the friends feature that I think would be helpful. Other things, French feature, going all in on berets. Yeah. I think that the friends feature would do more. It would do more for that than spectator chat or time trials. Does it do more for that than... Yeah, I think it does. I think the friends feature is my number two because of all the stuff, all the doors that it opens. So the friends feature itself, just being able to say, okay, this person's my friend, kind of underwhelming from a moving the game forward standpoint. But am I making sense? I feel like the stuff that you can do is just so much more valuable. Why is fart blocked by my filter? Sorry. Homepage, college, and friends, by far the biggest two. You with me, Grant? All right, Grant's with me. That's comforting. All right. After that, spectator chat to public games, time trials leaderboard, Reddit, and Discord accounts. From an effort standpoint, spectator chat is a much smaller thing to add. And so, as a cornerstone, I would probably put it before time trials just because we can get it done pretty quickly. It wouldn't take us more than a few weeks, frankly. This is the kind of thing we might honestly scoot in even sooner. Even though it's a cornerstone, it could be lumped in with some other stuff because it's not that big of a thing to create on the back end. Time trials. I don't know. What do we think about time trials versus linking accounts? I feel like time trials are a big thing for a small subset of the community. I like the opportunity to give them a little bit more to do, and a little bit more of a way for them to get more buy-in to their process. Like it's more fun to do time trials when there are a lot of people trying to beat those times. That's how you get people to be invested. And the nice thing about that is that if people are invested in these time trials, people are talking about these time trials. And if people are talking about these time trials, they are posting about these. You have an increase in Reddit traffic. You have an increase in like site presence on other websites that track time trials. We'd probably try to have it built into the site ourselves. But I think that gives you a little bit more of a thing to talk about and to do that people are motivated for. And it does appeal to people who don't play TagPro in a certain sense, because there are people who are very invested in time trials in other games. Like you think about the like Trackmania stuff, where you might not know a thing about the game, but you can watch a replay of it and say, wow, that was really cool that they did that thing. I think that if we have a time trials leaderboard and we have people trying to do these things, it opens up some doors for that to become a new source of content for the community. So I've talked myself into putting that above spectator chat, even though I think spectator chat will happen first, just because it's a quicker thing to assign to somebody. But in a one-to-one comparison, I think time trials are actually bigger than spectator chat for community impact. So that's going to go number 3. And then spectator chat versus linking accounts. I'm not sure. The linking accounts thing, I just want to know what I want to do with it. It's kind of where I'm stuck on it. It's a very doable thing, but where do you go with that? You can do more on Discord with bots. You can verify accounts much easier because they're verified on the TagPro side instead of the Discord side. You can make it easier to run tournaments. You could maybe offer some sort of reward for engagement to help with the people chatting in the Discord maybe. A flare could be offered, but like what else do you really, what does that change? What does that improve for the game? Does that drive people to actually come to the game and play it? So I think the Twitch part of that, the answer is yes, more so than Discord and Reddit, but I don't think that it's really elevated above any of the other options that we have here. So I think I would do Twitch before I do Reddit and Discord. They would probably happen at the same time anyway, just from a practical standpoint. Spectator chat is quicker, but I think mostly just appeals to people who are already here and are going to play no matter what. Yeah, it's not like, well, it's still that's category 2 though, is how do we make the site more enjoyable, make people more likely to stick around. I think that being able to chat with people while watching a game does do that, but does it do that in a way that actually keeps people around for longer? Not sure. Maybe they just enjoy the time they spend here more. But this is one where I know it was mentioned as important, but I don't really have a good use for it except maybe organized community events, having a way to contact. Yeah. Part of that is how much do people want it. People really want this kind of thing. That elevates its importance in my eyes because it's good to be receptive to what people are asking for. Why didn't that grab all of them? So, okay, that's our current list for release cornerstones. Again, these 2 are off to the side because they're somewhat in progress already. So we'll put them up there just because they're in development. So we've got about 2 minutes left. I don't think I'm going to go through all of this in 2 minutes. I'm pretty happy just getting this in order for now. So a couple things I want to touch on with release cornerstones. If you have other ideas for things that would be or could be release cornerstones, I want to hear about them. So let me know what you think there. You could always submit stuff to the feedback tab or to my DMs directly and we can chat about it. If you disagree with the order that I've put things in here, say so. That's okay. This is a conversation. But in terms of assigning these things to developers, if we had to pick one of them, I'm going to probably pick them in this order for assignment after the Steam release, or maybe with the Steam release as we're working on that, because that shouldn't take all of our dev time. Other things, housekeeping things, I'm going to be off next week, 12/19. I'm not going to be around. I'll be in New York. So if you're in New York, let me know. I can say hi, but will not be streaming next Friday. I will put that in the Reddit post as well. Yalpa says yay that I'm not streaming next week. Thanks, Yalpa. And I've canceled the Discord event, so you shouldn't get a notification for that. But I will be streaming the week after that, back on the usual schedule. Not a problem on that front. For the time, oh right, we're season 1. That's the other thing. So we're looking at a season 1 start on Monday. So I know the post said it was going to be today. It's not going to be today. Today is going to be fixing the season 0 flares, making sure everybody who should have the match has the match. I keep trying to do like a match thing, where like light the match, but I fail. Everybody should have the match. Will have the match. That should happen today, Monday, sometime during the day. Hopefully, we will start season 1. I will put a Reddit post up in about half an hour with all those details and a little bit more detail if I think of something else that I forgot to say. And other than that, think we're in a pretty good place. So once season 1 is off and running, we can really just stop focusing on it from a development standpoint and really get the shop in full swing, start getting towards that Steam release. I don't have a good timeline just yet, just because I've been kind of failing on timelines, so I don't want to throw out any numbers right now and then have to walk them back. So I'm going to say I'm not sure when the shop will be done, but I will let you know what we have completed as we start to complete things and then try to work on an actual target date when I have one. So for now, shop by the end of the year, that would be a tough sell. Tough sell. I almost just threw out a guess there, but I'm going to hold back. So hello, Deb. Me. Is that Nanner? I recognize those letters in that order. Dubbed. But anyway, that's all I have for you guys this week. Obviously, if you have any questions about anything, let me know. I know most of the viewers that we get here are from the recordings afterwards, so feel free to leave a comment on Reddit or on YouTube, and I'll try to get a response to you. Next week, we are off, reminder, and the week after that, we'll be going through the rest of our features, putting these in order, and then starting to build some release timelines. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Friday, a good weekend, and a good next week. I will see you all later.